Alright, so this is to redeem myself in my last video where performance was tanking. We are going to run as administrator the install script for Lxd on Windows. We get a little bunny, and I want to point out that I moved the apt installs.sh and the requirement.txt into the same quote directory, albeit on my desktop, as the install script is running, so it will do the full Chrome install. So we hit enter and we have the black screen of a DOS command line instead of the blue screen of a PowerShell. They both run the install script exactly the same way. So that just got rid of my old Ubuntu 18.04 under WSL, installed a new one, and this is the Apt Updates on the WSL 18.04. That's directly under WSL. After the Apt Updates are done, it moves along to the Apt Upgrades. I install Figlet. You see Figlet there. That gives me these big banners so I can announce what I'm doing a little more effectively. Just remind everyone that we are on Windows doing this. This is a fairly long process to wait through, but on the last video, you had to wait a long time to get to the process, so at least here I jump right into it, and I can title and describe this video so that people looking for this drop right into it instead of my morning talk. This also kind of does a reset of everything for me to make sure I'm starting from a nice, fresh, pristine starting point, and to make sure that my configuration for both Jupyter and for Chrome survive a reinstall. So I just did a restart, and then I jumped right into the installer without running anything in the background. So this is just kind of like a fresh test. And I'm also on my somewhat weaker everyday work system because it's small and I can just pick it up and carry it around easy. My other laptops are a little bit larger, and even though they're older, they're actually more powerful with an NVIDIA graphics chip. And that's where you see the correct aspect ratio for YouTube. When you're watching me and it fits the YouTube screen exactly without the black bars, I have it set up specially on those for YouTube broadcasting. Here, it's my everyday work machine, so I put a little less effort into the YouTube friendliness of things like resolution. Okay, so System D was installed, right? That's the big thing that's left off of Windows subsystem for Linux. After System D is installed, we are now able to install the Lxd system. So System D is a dependency of Lxd. Lxd needs System D to run. So now that System D is on there, we installed Lxd, and with Lxd on there, we can now pull down a container. You're seeing another Linux being pulled down. Even though we're under 18.04 to do this Lxd magic, the container we're pulling down is a 20.04 container. Right there is creating a proxy to it so that we can surf from the Windows host to localhost 8888, and all that traffic is forwarded down in through WSL and through Lxd and served from the Jupyter server that's going to be running on Lxd in a few moments. More than moments. So anyway, after the 20.04 is installed, that has to be apt updated and apt upgraded as well. So once again, you see me install Figlet so I can have the banners available. It's a different Linux. It's another Figlet install. And so this is now the apt upgrades of the 20.04 under LXD, of which there are not many. Ubuntu keeps that image very much up to date, so there's much less. Okay, and now we're installing Python 3.10, 3.10.7 in particular. It expanded the Debian software repositories it was looking at, or the Ubuntu repositories, to look at the PPA called Dead Snakes, and under Dead Snakes they have the latest Python. I'm installing Python venv, so now with venv we can create a Python virtual environment. That's what's happening here. It's copying the Python 3.10.7 exe and other stuff into it, adding LXD devices, right? These are all these mapped locations. And then now Google Chrome. This is Google Chrome being installed. The mapped locations allow configurations, your .ssh, your public-private keys for Git cloning without being challenged for passwords and stuff, comes from your Windows side. Windows side also keeps configuration for Chrome, and Windows side also keeps all your repos, your software repositories, so that as you go through this install over and over, you don't lose either your, of course, Jupyter notebooks, right? Those are part of your software repositories. You don't lose any of your notebook work. You don't lose any of your configurations for Jupyter. You don't lose your configurations for Chrome, right? That was important to me, especially on this latest round of work. So you're seeing Chrome stable getting installed right here. And hopefully I'll give you a much better demonstration of the Linux version of Google Chrome running on Windows at the end of this. I won't do any of the Jupyter stuff. I mean, you can rest assured that it is installing Jupyter, and we could go to the browser and do notebook stuff. But the point of this really is to get Chrome, Linux Chrome, on Windows. So important for so much of the work I've been doing lately. Here are the pip installs. This stuff took forever on the last video. This is a lot more typical. Note to self, don't shoot 1-hour videos with OBS screen recorder on this machine. Yeah, it's much faster now. Interesting messages using legacy setup.py install for certain things. The Python Pip Install system has undergone a number of significant infrastructure upgrades of late. And to take advantage of those upgrades, the developers of the respective packages have to do their part, and it's not always done, and not that it even needs to or should be. If it's not broken, don't fix it. So, you know. And now the optional pip installs are done. Now the Jupyter Lab Pip Install is occurring. The previous was from a requests, was from this requirements.txt, right? I was pip unfreezing it. It's just a list of things to pip install. That's what a freeze file looks like when versions aren't pinned. And likewise, this is just a bunch of apt install instructions. A little bit more. It's just a script file that gets run. So there's a wget in there for the Google Chrome thing, so we don't have to do another PPA for. Anyway, there's long stories here. Point of this video is making it short. This is the final step here. Jupyter Lab has been installed. It's about to activate the server. Moves over one more file. I'm going to try and silence this message here, but there's the instructions on what to do. And you can hit enter to release this window. There, it's gone. And now we go into this guy here, the same thing that you go into in order to start the Jupyter server in the background after a machine reboot. But under these conditions, you can use it just as a Linux command prompt too, which brings you into the LXD container. So right now we are under Lxd under Windows Subsystem for Linux, right? So if I were to exit, that prompt would change, but I don't want to exit because I just want to type Google Chrome. Sometimes when you do this, it opens underneath of the displayed screen. You know that by this appearing here. You just click it to bring it to front. The stuff that's failing there is, I believe, optimized graphics stuff, which just isn't going to be as fast as if it were native because it's going through an X server to do the graphics. But it's still working. And here is Google Chrome. Here's a Linux Chrome on Windows. That's Linux Chrome on Windows. All right. There you have it. And by being able to do this, we're going to be able to do a lot of additional projects coming up by which we automate Chrome. First, we automate Chrome keeping the browser showing, right, as we do Chrome automations with Puppeteer. And then we will automate Chrome by making the browser not show and make it headless. And once it's in headless mode, it's set up very well for automation. Now you can see here that performance is not all it should be. So again, I might be trying this under Windows 11. The screen capture software, I think, is having a very large impact on the performance of the browser, but there you have it. Google Chrome, Linux Google Chrome under Windows, under an Lxd container, under the Windows Subsystem for Linux. So now that we quit it, we can clear that screen. And when the prompt comes back, I can hit exit, and you can see us going from the container back up to normal WSL. Right? One more exit and it's gone. And that is the results of my latest work. Sort of sets a stage for lots of wonderful stuff to come. Thanks for joining me. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video if it was helpful. And if you want to do this yourself, you just go to a web browser. You visit like lxd.in/ux. It brings up the installer script. Select all, copy it, create a new icon on your desktop, paste this content in, call that install.bat, a new text file on your desktop. You can name it install.bat, and then you right click and you run as administrator, and you'll have this same stuff on your machine. Side by side with it, I have a bunch of optional stuff that it installs after the main install. This does all the apt installs, and this does all the pip installs. So thanks for joining me. Later, Gators.